Okay, so my video is not as nice. If you're here, I'm having to just go live from the Facebook app, which I don't love because it affects the lighting, it affects how I can toggle the pages with my notes and see your comments. So if you're here, please say so. And I don't know, I'm just bummed because the lighting is so bad when you just use the live feature versus being able to stream. And I don't know why I can't stream. So I apologize for the delay. This is a bummer. So Christy's here. Anyone else? I know we started late. Please refresh your page and come in. Today's topic is a big one, and my notes are awesome, and I'm excited to jump right in talking about how to get what we want. I'm going to go ahead and just do my best here with our technical difficulties because that's how we roll. It just looks different. I'm like all this stuff, we're just rolling. Okay, so I gotta figure out how I can see your comments and see my notes. Again, I'm super bummed that the lighting is so bad. Rachel's here. If you're here, please put it in the comments. Again, this looks different to me. Therese is here. So I don't know. I feel like I have to apologize because I feel a little bit like not being able to see my stuff like I normally can. But we're gonna do our best here. Give me grace, ladies. Give me grace. If any member of my team is here, please pop in the comments and say I'm here. My team is the best. All right, I think I've got my screen set up so I can see my notes and see the Facebook comments. Like I said, this is different to go live directly in the Facebook app. This is definitely not what I usually do. Okay, if you're here, and as you can tell, I'm trying to get a sore throat. I kind of sound like a man. All right, if you're here, tell us hello in the comments. We got started a little late, technical difficulties, but this topic is so important. It is so important. And I know that I made a little video yesterday about how we get what we want. I just came off an incredible trip to Mexico, having every experience that I wanted, everything. And I didn't think about the money. I thought about my kids, but not in like a worrying way. Good morning, Jacqueline. Thank you so much, guys, for using the chat. It helps not only other people see this pop up, but it helps me to know that we're ongoing. So when I ask for comments, when I ask for stuff, please use it. It makes Facebook work really, really well when people are engaged on a live video, especially me directly streaming in the app. So awesome, awesome. We're talking about how to get what we want. And my name is Robin Whitworth. I am the CEO of RRW Support Network, which is the umbrella over the Elevated Mother Experience program, the Solid Ground Mastermind program, and the creation of this group. It's awesome. So let's talk about this, and I really am going to ask for your vulnerability in the chat today, because being able to get what you want and accept these beliefs that I'm about to teach really hinges on your ability, your willingness, really, your willingness to accept a new idea, your willingness to let it sit within you and really get vulnerable about what is going on in your life. Because if you're like, well, I don't get what I want, then something's going on in your life that you are not aware of or you're choosing not to see. So let's talk about what it's like maybe where you're at or where I was several years ago. I really thought that life was just hard. I really thought, hey, Katie, I really thought that life was just a test. I really thought life was just full of trials because that's how I would progress. Those were my thoughts. That's what I thought. I thought it would take time to feel content. I thought it would take time to be financially comfortable so I could do things that I wanted. I thought that motherhood and all the things that were hard about that would just eventually end and I would feel free to then focus on my needs and wants. If you're like resonating with any of this, put it in the chat, please. It helps me to know if what I've prepared is going to matter, which is really important to me and the group and anyone that rewatches this to know they're not alone if you resonate with this stuff. My marriage kind of went up and down, like that too, I figured would just improve with time. And then I had other things. My health, my weight. I just thought, well, the time will come when this can just be different, when I can focus on this. My headaches, libido, energy, the afternoon slump. And here's the big thing that I realized as I was really pondering about this class and really thinking about how it used to be. I thought I was actually in a space of what I now call have to energy. Like, I have to do this. I have to make dinner. I have to clean up this thing and vacuum. I have to do the bathroom. I have to keep the house in order and the finances organized. This is just what I signed up for. Anyone else like had that thought? Like, well, this is what I signed up for, so I just have to live in the trenches. I laugh about it now because it's really a sad outlook. And what I'm about to share with you today validates why that's a sad outlook. I really thought, like, I want to do God's will and obtain blessings in my life, so I just have to nobly endure this crap that didn't feel good to me. Yes, my friends, I did lean into gratitude. I could see, like, okay, I'm grateful I have kids because some people can't have kids. I'm grateful I'm married because some people aren't married. Like, I really leaned into gratitude, but I'm going to be honest. It was from a place of ego. Like, oh, I have all of these things. I should be grateful because other people don't. Wow. I was living life like it was all about me. It was all about me. I was scared to do things because I might look stupid. I was scared to say something to a certain person because I might feel uncomfortable. What? Like, this was my reality. And I just thought, God's will had to be like being a supportive mom and a wife and a neighbor, right? Like always giving and being grateful. What are your guys' thoughts? If you don't feel like you're getting what you want or that you can, what are your thoughts around this? Hey, Serena. I love your comments. Katie says it feels like I'm waiting for motherhood to end all the time. Right? But then when you sit with that thought, you think, like if all of a sudden my kids were ripped from me in a tragic accident or something, that thought would be so bad, right? We have these ideas. We're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I actually think that. But it is our reality. So many of us live in this place of like, this is so hard. I'm just enduring. I'm just enduring. And Therese says, I've thought that time solves all as well. Things just get better with time. And a lot of people are programmed this way. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. And what's even more interesting to me, being in the Christian coaching space, I find this to be a particular stumbling block for Christians. This idea of noble sacrifice of self. And I have found a lot of it stems from this idea of being Christ-like being the goal. And I think that we have distorted that a little bit in many of our cultures. Jesus came to sacrifice himself. That was his singular mission. His ministry never said, you sacrifice like I did. I'm going to. He was talking about, in all of his teachings, he teaches us that we have gifts and talents, that we have a singular mission, and that the world would show us and reflect to us many possibilities, but with our eyes single to the glory of God, which is ourselves glorified, it kind of makes sense why we get to develop our talents. We get to experience joy. There are so many scriptures that I'm going to share in just a few minutes about this. And Therese says, coming to understand this isn't true is very empowering, right? It's so interesting because when I started really becoming aware of when I felt powerful versus when I feel disempowered, and I thought, okay, well then who is the person that would message me to be disempowered? Where's this messaging coming from? Guys, it's Satan, right? Like, this is, in a Christian world, we can talk about this. Like, Jesus empowers. He gives us his power. He's the one that's like, I've got you. I am dying on the cross to be your advocate because God's law says nothing unclean can dwell with him. So we're like, how do we make mistakes then? How do we learn and progress? Somebody's got to come down and atone. And Jesus said, I'll do it. And we all said, wow. Like, whew. Is this not beautiful? He said, I will do it. I will atone. I'll be the clean sheep that takes it all on. And all the rest of you guys get to make mistakes. You get to grow. You get to experience joy in this experience because I took care of the justice of it. Like, it's really amazing. His atonement is an enabler of power for us. We can go and make mistakes and we just repent. We course correct all the time. And Jesus says, you can do it 70 times 7. It doesn't matter. Every time you course correct, whatever you did that is gone. And yet too many of us dwell on it, right? It's kind of off topic, but if you haven't really solidified that understanding of what Jesus's life was for, why we call him Jesus the Christ, not just Jesus of Nazareth, do some study. Get your scriptures out and do some study, okay? So, oh, that's a beautiful thought, Katie. I was thinking yesterday how Christ is limitless. So if we are made in his image, then we are limitless. So why do we put limits on ourselves? Sit with that, man. Sit with that. That is a beautiful awareness. Beautiful. Not only that, so many times we get caught up in Christianity of being like, well, this is just my mortal experience. One day I'll be whole and I can have joy. I just have to make it through. Jesus came and was a human and showed us how being human made him more powerful. Our human experience empowers us. This isn't just something we have to endure. The experiences we have here are going to shape everything that our intellect and our soul gets to understand about our existence, right? So back to the thoughts of, this is just what I signed up for. I started to hear a different story, just like you guys are here today. This is so awesome. You're hearing a different story. You're willing to be curious. You're willing to accept a new idea. And so a few years ago, I thought, probably like 8-10 years ago, I started to hear a different story from people. I started getting into circles, Facebook groups, people like reading books that someone online was like, man, this book changed my life. I'm like, you know what? I'd like a life change. Maybe I should read that book. I started hearing a different story. I started picking up books that talked about how it's our thoughts about a thing that make what that is for us. Not everyone sees things the same way. That my experience was what I was making it. And the biggest piece of all that began driving my willingness to change was that multiple witnesses, these books, these people told me they had done this. Like their entire life shifted when their belief system shifted, that their thoughts changed, and thereby their entire life experience was changed. And I will tell you, when I first heard those kinds of ideas, I would get kind of this heart flutter. I would get this feeling. I would get chills. Anyone feeling this? I would get this feeling. I started to realize it was hope. Hope was rising within me that maybe there was something different. Maybe I had been living in this idea of self-sacrifice and that life was a test and that it was hard, and maybe I had misconstrued some things within my thoughts. Maybe it was just me having this experience. And I was around people that were validating that. But then when I saw these other circles that were not validating that, and they had more money, seemed like more choices. It seemed like even though their kids had medical issues, sometimes they weren't freaking out about it, to the point where I think their kids actually didn't get as sick as mine as often. I don't know. I started to put some things out there. And when I sat in a spiritual place in pondering quiet meditation, I realized that the spirit and my soul had been sending me messages of dissonance, of misalignment. That's why things were hard. Why did God and Jesus tell us throughout the Old and New Testament many times, take no thought for tomorrow? Take no thought for your raiment. What about the lilies of the field? They just grow and they're beautiful and they just grow there. Like what? My soul had been sending me messages for years that something was out of alignment. And I just took it that life was just hard. And I'm like, wait, that idea is out of alignment of truth. That's why I felt like this. Well, I can't do that, and I can't do this, and I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Since I've become more in alignment with truth, life is getting effortless. I'm learning when Jesus was talking about joy and that I'm supposed to experience joy. I've got Ecclesiastes 2 to throw at you. I've got Matthew 6. I got Luke 11. These scriptures, are just a few. If you do an online search that says scriptures that teach about the joy of mankind, scriptures that teach about God loving us and desiring us to have a loving experience, scriptures that talk about God providing all the things we need, scriptures that talk about if we seek the teachings in these scriptures, all things will be added to us. Ask and ye will receive. And I got thinking, I'm like, okay, was this hard life, exhausting life, money tight life, sacrificial life I was living God's will? Think about it, guys. What? Didn't God share, we just explored that? And Jesus shared that we have a choice to have everything. I have a whole list of scriptures that talk about our choice. Going back to Genesis, right? When he says, of every tree thou mayest freely eat, and I'm going to share with you some consequences you get to choose. It was Satan's plan that said, oh, no, we don't want to experience pain and joy and understanding. That would be scary. Everybody gets an award. I want everyone to go down and just make it. We'll just make everyone do the same thing. They'll just go down, choose God, and do this thing. They don't have to go through this whole thing. And there was a great number of people, if you believe in the premortal realm and books about that said, I kind of like that idea. And Jesus and God said, I think that you're going to learn a lot by your choices. It won't mean anything to you if you don't choose it. This way of progression, of light, of ease, of having all the things. And we're all like, hey, I like this plan. Okay? Back to the Garden of Eden. You get to choose your experience. How about Genesis 4:7? If you choose this, then you can have this. If you choose this, you can have, like, God was clearly saying we have a choice in the matter. We have a choice in how we feel. It started to make sense to me, and I've got Deuteronomy 11, Deuteronomy 30, Joshua 24, choose ye this day. We have the choice in our experience. I was like, all these books have been talking about this. There's like this huge revolution through the early 2000s of books coming out about this idea that our thoughts could be our choice, which then became our reality. And I'm like, what? This has been in the scriptures the whole time? That my thoughts were my choice, my reality, my experience was my choice? So what was I asking for then? What was I choosing to have this sacrificial life? Why did I think I was just doing noble deeds and suffering for it? Like, what? Didn't Jesus die so I could make mistakes and learn and progress and not suffer? That was his singular mission, so that I could have repentance. I could have peace all the time. And Jesus clearly said, peace I give unto you, but not the way that the world gives it to you. When we start to understand this, we're like, oh, I can have peace all the time. I can have happiness all the time. Like, when I really leaned into the idea, the Spirit started sharing with me that these were true ideas. The dissonance started to shift. The misalignment started to shift. I leaned into the idea that God desired my happiness. I leaned into the idea that I was in charge of my joy with my thoughts, and that he had created the ability within us to choose. He made it clear it was my choice to ask for what I wanted. Ask and ye shall receive, knock and it will be opened. That means I have agency. That means I'm an agent to myself in my life. Not just reacting to what's around me. I'm not just placed here and like, good luck. Like, he actually created a pathway where I could choose joy, fulfillment, happiness. And isn't that when we say, oh, I just want more money, I just want this different job, when we want something, what we're seeking, and this is a big point, if you've got notes, come back to us, take some notes. When we're asking for what we want, I totally lost my train of thought. When we're being an agent to ourselves and we are asking for what we want, that is where our joy will be found. When you get what you want and you are feeling the best of yourself, is that not when you give the best of yourself? That's when you can be the better wife, the amazing mom. Like, there's so much in this. So the beliefs that I'm sharing with you that I would love for you to take notes on is that when you choose what you want, you actually make the choice. I'm choosing this. That will bring you joy. That is God's will. Do you see this? Share with me your thoughts. Any thoughts? This is a belief you get to start working with to start shifting what's going on in your life. And I'm going to share right now that inside the Elevated Mother Experience program, you will get so much support with this. If it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, you will get so much support with this. We have a whole workbook that will help you to see the evidence of this. So the first belief is that you do choose your experience. It's a belief you get to start having. Oh, if this feels hard, this is actually a choice. What? You see how empowering that is? Like, wait, I really have the power for my life to like do this. That when I choose my happiness, that's what God wanted for me. Because he already created everything, right? There's nothing else he's going to create. It was all created in the beginning through his word. That tells us I create through my word, my beliefs. So when I'm getting what I want, my righteous desires, like, then you're at your best the majority of the time instead of rarely. And I know that my team member, I think Missy's on here. Yeah, Missy's on here. Shout out to Missy, by the way. Incredible team member. Always supportive, always gives such great advice, has such great experiences. She gave a great class just a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but on self-care and the power of growing ourselves and why really taking care is so important. Now, this goes into the skills. This goes into the skills. If you need a link to that class, if you missed it, drop it in the comments. We'll make sure and tag you there. So the skills, the 2 skills then. Number 1, write out a list of things that you love. And this list is going to grow now that you realize your happiness is like a choice. Your experience of things is a choice. You go, okay, what brings me joy and delight? Really think, when I'm in that moment of delight, when it's almost like time stands still for you, you're in a moment of delight, you don't think about the finances. You're not thinking about, you have these moments of delight. Create a delight list for yourself and add to it as often as your brain comes up with something else. And then look at that list and try to do 2 or 3 of those things every day. This is a skill because it's something you can work on. It's something you get to try over and over and over. And it might be playing music, dancing in your kitchen. All of a sudden, dishes or dinner time can become a moment of delight with you. Those moments when the kids are snuggling with you and you forget about time and space. You go, oh. Your brain is going to start going, oh, this is a moment of delight. And you stop thinking about when it will end and you start living more in the present. You start to shift your experience knowing that you've created that delight list and you're putting it in there. Oh yeah, I have delight every day. All the things will start to shift, I promise. I can testify, and if anyone's in the program or my team, like, everything starts to shift when you take back responsibility for your experience and you start adding in the awesome fun or seeing things fun. All of a sudden, the tunnel you thought you were in starts to dissolve and you realize it was just your mind that created the tunnel. There's no light at the end of the tunnel anymore. The tunnel is gone. You're just living. You're living an incredible life every day. By adding these little delights in every day, you're going to increase your presence. You're going to increase your happiness. You will start getting more of what you want because you're choosing it. More and more and more. Skill number 2, exercising faith. Faith is definitely something we work on. Look for the miracles. Accept the miracles without judgment or justification. So when you're sitting there snuggling with your kids on the couch on a Saturday night movie, you're not sitting there on your phone or sitting there thinking about your finances or whatever. You're actually present. You're actually sitting there going, oh, what a miracle that all my children are healthy. They're sitting with me today. Oh, what a miracle. My car just starts every day for me. You could say that's a gratitude practice, but really lean into the idea of faith, that you're looking for the miracles. You're looking for the shifts in your mindset. That is a miracle. The idea that we can even change and do this is a miracle. Exercise your faith daily by looking for the miracles and accepting them as miracles. A lot of people I'll share that with, and they tell me, like, I didn't even recognize that till you pointed it out to me. But as they're longer in the EMX program and we have one-on-one sessions, and I get my eyes on your life and we get your eyes on what's going on, what's the data, what are the patterns, then I and other people that are facilitating the program, we can go, look, these are the miracles. Sometimes we're so close to our lives, we just don't see. We're so like, we've been in this caged mindset for so long. We've been looking at the same four walls that we quite literally are in a box. And until an outside, unbiased source comes in and points out the holes and the window and the door to get out, sometimes we stay in there for a long time. So exercising faith by looking for the miracles and not judging it. Be like, well, that's not really a miracle. Oh, that's a miracle because my mother-in-law would have never come at that time. Like, really, stop justifying and judging miracles that are happening in your life every day. Thank you for sharing your experiences, Missy and Christy. It's beautiful. And I love Katie Brink's post the other day in the group. And the reason that she was able to see so much shift immediately is this idea of faith. She said, I'm willing to put my faith in action in this. I'm willing to make a different choice. So, 2 beliefs, 2 skills. So what I would love for you to do, there's something within the next couple hours, next couple days, next couple weeks, next couple months that you really want to have happen in your life. And so use these skills and these beliefs to start seeing it, because just like Katie and Christy and Missy, they're testifying, guys. This is not a lie. This is not a theory. This isn't something you can't have. It's your choice. That's true, Therese. So in the next couple of hours, think of something you'd really like to have happen, and don't justify it and be like, well, of course that's going to happen. No, really think of something you would really like. An invite to lunch, an extra $100 to show up in your account for the next 2 weeks, and start looking for it. Like, really start looking for it. A lot of people will get like a random, the power company all of a sudden sends out what do they call that? A reimbursement. And you can say, yeah, but I put the paperwork in that for 6 months ago and it just showed up. And I said, yeah, of course it showed up now because you said you were ready for $100. Accept it for the miracle that it is in your thoughts, and more of them will come. Katie, the 2 beliefs are choosing that you have the choice, choosing what you want, that would bring you joy, is God's will. Second belief is that when you get what you want, those joys, those delights, you are at your best the majority of the time instead of rarely. Those are beliefs. Those are belief systems. It's a paradigm. It's how you choose to move forward. What are your decision making? So that choosing what you want is God's will, and that when you do that, you are at your best. Like, life starts to be awesome. Then the skills is writing out what those things that do bring you delight and starting to practice them a couple of times a day. Include them. And then the second skill is exercising faith by looking for the miracle and accepting it without judgment or justification. And I would even write it down. I think Missy that has a miracles journal? It's a fantastic idea. So, thoughts, ideas. What are you guys thinking? What do you think? What are some of the things, if you're vulnerable, if you're willing, what are some of the things that you're going to bring in the next 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months? What is something that you're going to use these new ideas that you think will really happen? A compliment from your husband? Your friend offering to pay for lunch? Your child doing their homework without being prodded. Right? Faith precedes the miracle. But what's also interesting, Christy, is so many times we were receiving and we like aren't, we're not choosing to see it, right? So we're not fostering these beliefs, and so they don't grow. And we continue to live in the idea that we're a victim and we just have to wait and life's a test and all this stuff. It's like, no. You know, some people spout the scripture that Jesus shares, you know, I'm not seeking my will, I seek the will of the Father. And you have to realize, you really have to realize what Christ's mission was. You know, when you're talking about choosing what I want is God's will, it's like, no, God's will is God's will, and I'm supposed to choose his will. It goes around. Jesus was like, he was, if that's the perfect example, is that when he was saying that, he's like, this whole thing was the plan. So by me choosing to go through with this, of course it's God's will. I chose to move forward with the mission. And so it's not a matter of Jesus having this own will. He was a singular, amazing, born of the Spirit human, right? He wasn't the norm. That's why we call him Jesus the Christ. He was the Messiah, the promised one to come and do all of that. So yes, we can be Christ-like by following his teachings, but we are never going to be Christ. He never asked us to be Christ. That was his mission alone. Keep that in mind. Whenever you feel like you have to sacrifice, really look at what that word means. Do your scripture study. It's more about this idea that I just taught, that we let go of the ego. We let go of the natural man. That's the sacrifice God's talking about. The idea that this world actually is like anything but just an experience for us to choose and to learn. Oh my gosh, I love these. Are you guys reading these comments? Oh, I love that. How do you say your name? Is it Latia? I was too fearful to ask God for certain things, but then I asked for an increase in my faith, and that felt freeing and electric. Starting to recognize when your soul comes into alignment with truth is huge. I was feeling like my money was tight paying my kids' school tuition. I trusted that God put that school in my life. I paid it in gratitude, and $900 of a late tax return showed up in my mailbox later that day. I was still able to buy groceries and birthday presents and feel joy and pay my bills. Dude, this stuff happens, guys. This stuff happens. I'm working on getting my realtor's license, growing my income, and getting out of debt. Yes. Let's start shifting the language, Jacqueline. We're not working on it. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Getting my realtor's license is growing my income and my debt is decreasing. You could also have an affirmation around debt. A lot of people have a lot of negative feelings around debt. We should do a class on that, huh? I think I did once. I can't remember, but I need a large resource for a trip next week. I received a small amount of currency today, and even though it's not the amount required, I'm so grateful because it's the same energy and frequency as the required amount, so I'm letting it flow. Yes, Katie! Latia, thank you. Let's live in joyful expectation of the miracles. See the miracles. But I'm going to tell you, the more you live in joy and delight, the more you raise that vibration up to the if money, like wealth is something you're looking at, like that functions, currency functions at a certain vibration because it's an exchange. The law of compensation is in it. And so when you raise your vibration, all of a sudden currency flow can be something you experience all the time. Therese, one of the things around debt that I can just share real quickly before we hop off is to just shift the story. Write your story around debt and then look at how you can shift the story, right? Because you have the choice to change that. You have the choice to change that perception. And one of the things that I heard in a great book called Rich as F by Amanda Frances, she talked about, she's like, debt is just a predetermined decision to pay something over time. The end. And once I started to think about that, she's like, if you have faith in yourself that you like are moving forward on stuff, like what is this idea that this debt you got in was a bad decision? You're not someone that makes bad decisions. Start shifting the story and the energy shifts. But I'll look for any of the other money classes for you, Therese. So as we wrap up here, just know that these principles I'm teaching, they matter. This changes your whole life. And if you're ready to really start changing all the things with support, an unbiased approach, a workbook to keep this together so that it becomes a habit, it becomes the way you think, then I highly, highly recommend getting on a call with me or Miss Cherie and talking about the Elevated Mother Experience program. Like really getting into this material. We have an 8-video money module. We've got modules around energy, like vibration, like this kind of stuff. And there's scriptures. I mean, what's different about our program in one way is that we teach a lot of these principles that you'll see in like mindset or manifestation circles and corners and books. But we talk about what did Jesus already teach? Just like I brought this into this class. You will get that quite a bit in the Elevated Mother Experience because it is geared for the Christian mom that believes in Jesus Christ, that can bring this power that he gave us into our very real existence. And a lot of people just aren't in a space where that's something that we're talking about. Where we're putting it together for them. We're paralleling these ideas. The world is like, oh, this is a new idea. And we're like, actually, it's been around since we've had records of the New Testament or Genesis. Like this idea of choice, this idea of creation, this idea of God loving his children and wanting them to have happiness, right? So awesome. You guys are amazing. Thanks for being here, even though we started 10 minutes later. Share this group with your friends if you're finding value, please. Open our mouths, right? Don't be the person with the light under the bushel. So have an awesome rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you all soon. Let's see, now how do I end it when it's